Kick off again. Thanks everyone for joining. Again, my name is Tim Shea. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Latticework Insights. We're a data science and marketing agency focused on a lot of these data integration problems that we're going to unpack today. We certainly couldn't do our jobs without Fivetran. We definitely nod to Fivetran for hosting this webinar. Fivetran also provides a pretty awesome modern data stack. So when we're out there solving data integration problems for our customers, Fivetran plays a pretty big role in that. So today we're going to talk about the controversial suggestion that the media game is becoming a data integration game. You think of all the power brokers in the media world. They're out there selling media on the streets of New York City every day. But really, there's a whole crew of smart data folks, data integration folks behind the scenes, under the hoods, putting those sales pitches together, helping folks understand, what's effective, what's not, where the media industry is going. And we've got an awesome panel of experts in the industry that are going to help us understand, what are the secrets, what's happening behind the scenes? How does this actually work? What are they saying out in the industry? And how does it all come together? I think an interesting, fact to kind of kick off with is in 2014. There was an interesting study that was published that said in the marketing technology world, there's over 900 different marketing tech platforms that folks in media had to grapple with. 900 choices they have to make, potentially 900 platforms they need to integrate, synthesize, incorporate into their work. Biggest problem was that even 6 years later, in 2020, that number had mushroomed into almost 10,000. So today, there's over 10,000 different marketing tech platforms that brands, marketers, publishers, folks in ad tech have to grapple with to do their jobs. And we've assembled a really awesome panelist to help make sense of this all. What is it that they do day to day? What is the pitch that their companies are bringing to market? And I'm really excited to bring this to all you guys. So just really quickly, I wanted to go through each of the panelists, the companies that they work for, to help kind of set the stage, and then I'm going to turn it over to them to give some intros. So first and foremost, Nana Estuman, who's the director of data engineering at Condé Nast. Condé Nast, a brand that most of us know and love and interact with. In fact, 1 billion humans interact with Condé Nast. They've got exposure across 32 different countries. They've got 30 different brands: Pitchfork, Vogue, Vanity Fair, Condé Nast Traveler. It's a really difficult problem that they're trying to solve. We've also got with us Alana Hendlish, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Bridge. These folks have an incredible database of over 200 million verified human beings. We're going to dip into what verified actually means. I think it's actually pretty cool, the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes. We've also got Chris Kite, who is the Director of Technology at Ziff Media Group. This is a big collection of owned and operated tech, gaming, and shopping digital properties. They have a very interesting and unique proposition when it comes to the e-commerce space, and we're going to unpack that with them today. And last and certainly not least is Analytics IQ. Margot Hawk is joining us from Analytics IQ. She is the VP of Digital Partnerships. They also have a very interesting database of almost 250 humans, all of their interests, the things that they do, the things that they're in market for. I don't know how they do that. Maybe they bring 250 million people over for dinner and they ask them all these questions to populate their database, but she's going to help us unpack how this actually happens. So these are the companies. Right now, I wanted to turn it over to the individual panelists. Let me stop sharing my screen real quick. And so I'd love to go sort of one at a time and have each person give us a quick intro, who they are, what they do at the company. And I'd love for them to kind of set the stage as well. What are the top, one or two data sources that you guys are bringing into the organization that are really, really important to your organization. Nana, could you kick us off, please?
Yeah, most definitely, Tim. And thank you for having me today. And thanks to Fivetran for hosting this event as well. And it's really great to be with everyone. So as Tim mentioned, I'm the Director of Data Engineering at Condé Nast. And essentially, what I do at Condé Nast is I lead a team of very talented data engineers here. And essentially, we are the forefront of how data gets into Condé Nast. So this is looking at our first-party data sets, how we bring in the data that we collect across our own sites, such as our clickstream data, to understand how people are actually behaving within our products and our sites, and also working with different third-party vendors to collect different data sets that the marketing platforms are, I would say, collecting for us and generating data for us as well. So I think going back to the question you asked in terms of what kind of data sets do we really work with on a daily basis to really understand how, one, our content is doing, how consumers and audiences are interacting with our content. I think the most interesting one is obviously Facebook and social data, trying to understand how people are interacting from a social perspective. But also, interestingly, understanding how some SEO search traffic is also coming through onto people are coming onto our sites and our different products. So I think those data sets I think are key in terms of how a company like Condé Nast and also across the number of brands that you saw on the slide is trying to tackle this problem, specifically to really understand, first of all, how people are coming in and how our audiences are also interacting with the specific content. And having been at Condé actually for just a year, I'm actually amazed and actually proud of how much we use data within our organization to help make decisions and also help drive more revenue growth and also growth in our audiences as well.
Awesome. I love it. Cool. I'm going down my my list of images on the left-hand side here. Margot, do you want to kick us off as well? Tell us a little bit more about yourself and Analytics IQ.
Yes, Margot Hawk, VP of Digital Partnerships at Analytics IQ. So Analytics IQ was founded about 14 years ago just in the analytics world. We have kind of grown from that to helping direct mailers and, and clients that are really working in the offline direct mail space move into that kind of digital ecosystem. So my team of marketers, data scientists, we have more data scientists and people with PhDs on our staff than we actually do sales staff. And we actually have two different databases. We have a people core database and a business core database. So our people core is really who I am as an individual, my motivators, my interests, what social channels I'm looking at every single day, and then who I actually am in our business at Analytics IQ, an executive, decision maker, an influencer, so that those B2B marketers can market me, but we actually can tie back to who I am as the consumer and actually say, like, these are the channels you should be marketing me on. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Margot. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. Next up on my list on the left-hand side panel here is Alana. Alana, could you tell us a little bit more about Bridge?
Hey, Tim. Sure. And thanks for having me, and thanks to Fivetran as well. So I am the Chief Revenue Officer at Bridge. Bridge is, I lead a team of sellers and account managers that offer data and identity solutions, as well as media activation against that foundational data layer. We have something called Bridge Connect, which is our deterministic consumer audience database. It is built from real people using actual digital, mobile, and offline behavior. I think our differentiator is that it is built from our expertise in email. We are a foundational data player in the email space, and so a lot of what we do is building the real people from the email and on up.
Excellent. Really cool. Thank you, Alana. And Chris, can you please kick us off a little bit? I'd love to hear more about yourself and Ziff Media Group.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim, and thanks to Fivetran for having me. My name is Chris Kites. I am the Director of Technology at Ziff Media Group. So our company is made up of a number of brand web properties, Mouthful, PC Mag, Retail Me Not, and on. You have kind of a large portfolio there. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of data, and We want to make sense of it across all of our sites. So we can hopefully take insights from one area and apply them to another and just overall optimize our business. So sort of similar to, Nana at Condé Nast, we have data engineering, we have data science, data systems, and our audience really is the core thing for us. Our goal is to be the most trusted companion for our users as they're coming in and reading, the latest lifestyle, pop culture stuff on Mashable, as they're looking at laptop reviews on PC Mag and then trying to get a deal on those on Retail Me Not. So our data set really are Google Analytics across our web properties and sort of the other data from our partners in terms of what our users are doing on our sites, where they're spending their time and where they're going on from us to make purchases on other sites. So happy to be here and excited to talk more because, the thesis here may be controversial, but I agree. For our company, I think basically every decision is driven by insights from our data.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you to everyone. This is great. Chris, I would agree. Somewhat controversial. I obviously, I believe that this is the case, that the data folks behind the scenes are the one making a lot of this stuff happen. I think the question for a lot of folks is like, how? If you're reading about, the media industry right now, a lot of folks are talking about, the upfronts, the TV upfronts, and the digital new fronts. I always think this is an interesting, extended pageantry of media buyers and ad sellers coming together to talk about the new packages. Like what's available this year? What are the new sites and programming and audience products that are for sale? So I want to talk a little bit about media buying. So media buyers have a lot of choice. They have a lot of choices. They're buying on television. They're buying on Facebook and Google. They're buying on print. They're buying influencer marketing. And then they show up at the new fronts, and there's a whole huge slate of folks presenting all these individual products. YouTube, Vivo, Samsung, Vizio, and Condé Nast. Condé Nast is on stage talking about their new set of products. So I wanted to direct this question towards Nana. This is a tough job, right? To break through the noise, to talk to media buyers about what is unique and interesting about Condé Nast. And there's a team of experts behind the scenes making this all happen. So Nana, I was wondering if you could kind of unpack this for our listeners right now. And I'm very specifically interested in team. You mentioned team in your answer. What do you think is the right mix of skills when you're building your team at Condé Nast? Who are the right people to bring in to help do this really tough job to break through the noise?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think to definitely before I answer your question directly, I'm going to talk about one thing that I think when people are trying to buy spots and those kinds of things when it comes to media, where Condé Nast also definitely stands out. I think in terms of the kinds of content that we create and the experiences that we provide to our audiences through the brands that we have within our Condé Nast network, I think is one that is trustworthy across the industry, and also one of the obviously very high competition with other publishers in the industry as well. So that I think from that angle puts us in a very good spot in terms of how we actually do portray ourselves within the industry. In terms of when we are building a team, specifically my team, and I can only talk about my team, is from a data perspective, we look for people who like to collaborate. Right. I think in the world that we are in now, that is one of the most important and key challenges that many teams and many companies look to ensure that people who are helping solve a problem can collaboratively come up with new ideas, sort of break the barriers and the boundaries of things that have been existing as a status quo, and how to bring speed to the ways that decisions are made, right? Essentially within the industry. And I think from my perspective, from a data engineering side of things, is how can we quickly provide data or integrate to, I think, all the marketing tools that you mentioned, right? How can we integrate into these tools more quickly and provide data to our various analysts who are trying to get insights from the data from our marketing platforms and different vendors that we partner with to understand how our content is doing, how our audiences are interacting, how our audiences are sticking around and engaging, and how they're spending time with us, right? Because that's what empowers, obviously, our editorial side to write more compelling stories, and also engages with people to continue to stick within our network across our different brands and our family.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I got to imagine like the challenge though is that, you can't go on looking for resumes where people have majored in data engineering or there's no majors nowadays for people that have a degree in data storytelling. So how do you go through that big stack? Is it computer science, or is there like a different sort of skill set or background that you're looking for people to come on and do that really tough data storytelling?
Yeah, I think for when it comes to building a team or having like a group of data gurus, I should put it that way. Essentially, is you obviously the traditional way of someone specifically going to school for computer science or information science technology in that regard. Being a data engineer once they're done with school and with or their bachelor's or master's program, I think it's sort of diluted a little bit. Whereas now you have people who are learning stuff on their own as well, right? People who are learning how to write things in Python themselves and understanding how a distributed system works and can actually come into this land as well. So I think that it's still important to know the foundations, right? As I always tell people, to understand like what that true foundation is to become a good programmer and a good coder. But you're finding that people who are looking for jobs in data and people who like to tell stories are people who essentially want to help solve a problem. And I think that's where it stems from. If you're a problem solver and you want to help figure out something, you pretty much have the skill set to jump into data, because at the end of the day, what you're providing or the value that you're providing to an organization is essentially ways that they haven't discovered before, which is through data and how to bring that in. And essentially, if you are the kind of person who is motivated to do that, I think it's definitely the right place for you to be.
That's cool. That's cool. I want to jump on one other thing you said, and then I want to open up to some of the other panelists. But, I always think about like why data engineering? Why do companies need to invest in data engineers and do that hard work? There's a lot of folks out there, Adobe, Salesforce, Oracle, have these great marketing clouds, but they'll probably tell you this is a one-stop shop. You don't need all these smart folks to bring all the data in. You can do all the storytelling. You log into Adobe, and it's all the answers are right there for you. How do you think about comments like that?
Yeah, I think, they make these comments because they have a point. They're trying to get a point out. But from my perspective and my opinion, the reasons for having a data engineering team specifically within an organization is you are providing yourself the capability to move faster, right, and to provide more to you, right, and also find different things that let's say the Adobes or the other folks who are trying to again not essentially pretty much have you use their own technologies to do such integrations. Is sort of you definitely do not want to get stuck in that siloed, right? You want to have a capability where you have opportunities to integrate with, using a tool like Fivetran, which is why we are all gathered here today, to integrate with these different sources and these different connectors, which provides you the ability to pull more than you potentially could if you're stuck within that one area, right? So having a data engineering team really empowers an organization overall, because you are putting your, I would say, fate of how you get more data and how you generate more insight in the hands of people like myself, because we can bring data in quickly in terms of speed, and we can bring large volumes and organize the data in the right way that would help you drive more revenue. That's
great. That's great. I love it. I appreciate those answers. So I want to talk a little bit more about this concept of like actually building audiences. You talk about a little bit about Condé Nast, about folks are coming in, maybe you're customizing a package for certain folks, but I want to direct this question towards Margot. I think Analytics IQ sits at the nexus of a lot of this conversation around building audiences. NBC, Universal, Disney, Fox, etc. They're out there talking about how all of their clients are snowflakes. They have individual needs, individual things that they want to get in front of consumers, and that they rise to that occasion. But I'm curious, like, how does that actually work under the hood? So if someone comes to Analytics IQ, how does that audience building process actually work?
Yeah, so I think the first thing kind of right now, especially, we're talking about all of these new kind of the world of CCPA, the world of increased, regulations across the US, this new cookie, mailess world, ISO happened yesterday and people are like, oh, my face can now, like with my mask on, my face now can, open up my phone. What else happened yesterday with iOS? So that's kind of what I kept seeing yesterday. But really, it's more around these data partners that like need to be these trusted data partners now. So with these new CCPA laws and this regulation across the US and them ever evolving every single day, you are going to have, the brands and the agencies that are like, okay, CRM first party data really is kind of like what we're moving towards. But you're always going to need the third party data partners. You're always going to need those additional online signals, offline signals for the behavior, the interest, and those motivators. And so really what we're starting to see with like these emerging articles coming out around, third-party data not being valuable, we're actually like hearing more and more companies saying, no, we need our first-party data, but we need to leverage that third-party data as an extension of our first-party data. So that's really what we're starting to see is really the extension of third-party data coming into these safe rooms, coming into the environments of those first-party data and just adding that additional interest, behavior, motivators onto people's first-party data. So, we work with a lot of, like the LiveRamps, the Newstars, the Onboarders, the DMPs, the DSPs, all of those. But it truly is this intertwining of our relationships now. But it all kind of still goes back to the trust and actually the transparency. And that's where I think that the industry is really moving to is the trust and transparency. So with Analytics IQ, all of our data sets are all offline data sets. Everything sits in our walls. We have our own hands on it. Nothing is coming from a different provider into our walls that we can't actually touch. So everything is these raw sources. So we can actually go say, this is how the model was built. This is how we got to that audience because everything is raw within our hands to touch. So we do have a lot of, syndicated audiences out in the digital ecosystem. I think we have like 1,600 of, past purchases in market for an automobile, health and wellness. Will I now use a CBD oil? Do I give my dog, CBD treats? How am I sleeping nowadays? We have all of those, but those aren't necessarily what clients are looking for in this new kind of trust and transparency universe. They're really wanting to like really hone in on those niche audiences. And so since we have all of that data raw in-house, we're able to truly build, at a very specific level. So the data in-house, we can get up to, in the thousands of household income instead of these broad ranges of I make between $100 and $150,000. I can now say I make $132,000. That's the audience that I want. But it really still comes down to being a trusted provider, having that transparency. How is that built? And then really honing in on the first party, but you need that third party data still.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I mean, I think there's folks at the top of the Mount Zion that are talking about first party data is going to lead us into the future. But there's a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, startups that don't have any first party data. Mm-hmm. Yep. They're really looking to, and their sort of default is going to go to Facebook and say, hey, I need 18 to 35-year-old guys in market for an automobile, right, for our product like mine. So I think third party is definitely here to stay. But so you come to the market and you say, we've got this giant database, 200 plus million individual people. We know all sorts of stuff about them. How do you know so much stuff about them? Like I said, are you having them over to the office and you ask them all these questions? Like, tell me how do those dinner parties actually
so we
work?
Get a lot of our sourcing is public data sources. So we are able to be transparent and say, a lot of comes from, courthouse records, land deeds, all of that stuff. That's how pretty much all of us that have offline data sources and that they're public sources, That's how we all get it. But really what the differentiator then is what do we do with that? How do we create with that? So Analytics IQ actually does a monthly survey, and we go out to a panel of people, all opt-in, and we actually ask questions different ways. So we work with a lot of brands and agencies that are in that pre-planning stage for their clients. And they'll say, we've been looking for this audience for a year now. We've not been able to find it. So we actually can go out to a panel of people. Half is on mobile desktop, or half is on mobile, half is on desktop. So we do get that wide range of who the people are that are taking it. And we ask these questions. So we get to niche audiences. Like I said, we have CBD on the political landscape last year. We were asking questions around, how do you feel about gun control? How do you feel about marijuana legalization? We were asking those kind of questions because you could have then been a switcher on what party you were voting for last year. And that was really good insights. So we do these surveys to really get what is in the industry right now, what is like real time happening, in the news and in your environment to get to your motivators and how you feel. And then we can build these very niche audiences, or these ones that some other, competitors of ours say they will not touch and play in. We can build those because we're actually getting true answers and variables from actual people taking our survey.
And you guys are literally building, you've got a sort of central identity for a person, certain user ID for a person. You're slowly bringing in different components of what this person is interested in, who they vote for, what they shop for. Do they give their dog CBD dog treats? Are a lot of people giving their dogs CBD dog treats? Is that a big trend?
Yeah, a lot of people actually are.
Okay, that's great.
Actually, one of our largest audiences though last year was because I said earlier, we have a people core database is who the individual is, but then we actually have a business core. So we can actually say, kind of turning that B2B to C, this is who I am in the business, to who I am as an individual. And so, am I materialistic? Do I drive an SUV and have 4 kids and I'm going to sports every single night? So probably eating out at a fast food restaurant. Like we can actually tie who you are in the business to how you make decisions in your personal life. And so that kind of takes into effect too of like, these surveys and, all of these different kind of motivators that you have.
That's great. Yep. That's great. No, I think that it's a really interesting data integration problem. There's data coming from a lot of different places, a lot of data upkeep, right? You're surveying these folks on a regular basis. And I think, you mentioned, you've got more PhDs and data scientists and salespeople. It's a lot of work to get this stuff ready to take to market.
Well, and also in our surveys, it's a lot of work to actually make sure how you're saying that question is how somebody is actually, understanding it and saying the right answer back. That's really what our data sciences team does too, is making sure that those questions are really perceived in the right way. And we ask them multiple ways to get truly underlying what your motivators are. Yep.
That's cool. I love it. Well, thank you very much. Well, this is cool. So, look, I think that there's a big undercurrent there with regards to first and third party data. There's a lot of talk now about a new emerging guard of brands, right? Direct to consumer brands that are able to build direct relationships with their customers through, they've got digital marketing and every tool in the book at their fingertips. And so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit. And I think, Chris from Ziff Davis, I think you'll have some interesting insight on this topic. So you guys do have an ad sales business, but you guys are somewhat unique in that you also have an affiliate business where you guys have a really big stake in the performance, sort of performance marketing data on all of your various websites. Has a special meaning to you that's a little bit different than, let's say, like how Condé Nast runs their business. Can you give me a little insight on how that actually works? Maybe give me like, a day in the life of Chris Kite. Like, what are you guys actually doing? What is the data that matters to you? How does that actually work?
Absolutely. So if you look at performance marketing, how that works, just in case some people aren't familiar, rather than someone coming to us and saying, hey, we're going to pay you to run our ads or that sort of thing, we go ahead and we get a feed from the different partners we work with, and where we have offers from them, coupons, products, that sort of thing. You think about, we work with just a unthinkable amount of different merchants. I'm sure we've got some CBD dog gummy merchant we have coupons for somewhere, tell me not. So we curate this huge collection of offers, deals, products from all these different merchants we work with. Our goal then, like I said, is to help our users, our readers, make purchasing decisions. And when they do, to save them money. So someone from one of our sites goes and they decide they want this Dell laptop and they get a deal from Retail Me Not. They click over to Dell. We make some commission if they actually buy that laptop, right? So it is 100% on us to actually drive that traffic that converts. Because that's the only way we get paid at the end of the day. And it's kind of a win-win-win. If you think about it, we, our merchant partners win, they get more sales. Our users win, they save some money. We win, we get some commission based off of that, and we can, keep the lights on. So that's kind of the model. And so therefore, data integration is the name of our game, and it has been in the sort of like 13 years I've been in this industry. First-party data from your site, third-party data from others. You've got to know what your audience is doing on your site. You've got to know what they're doing once they leave and go, whether they buy something or not from all your different partners. So my team in particular, I have a data systems team, and we're responsible for that. And probably no surprise that we use Fivetran to bring in absolutely as much of that as we can, right? Google Analytics, our ad performance data, even down to like our Salesforce, so we know who's managing what ad campaigns and things like that. And then the other thing we do is for the sort of smaller partners we work with in the affiliate space that probably, Fivetran doesn't have a lot of demand for a small affiliate network that does one thing, but we have to work with them. And so we have a team that builds those integrations ourselves. And like I said, that is how we run everything in our business is off of that data. And our goal always is to optimize the experience for our readers, for our users, our customers. And it just happens that when we do that, we also make more money. So it's kind of like you said, a unique proposition in that space. And then I guess the last part of that is that we, to work with partners and show them why they should work with something like offers.com or Retail Me Not. We have to be able to tell that data story of here's what we can do. If you come and you let us, for example, bid on your terms, your trademark terms for your business, look what we can do. Look what we've done for other people in a similar space or other spaces. Look at the traffic we've driven. Here it's high quality, it's converting, it's people in these niches, right? And then on-site, we optimize, telling sort of similar stories internally of, hey, are we reaching the right people with this email campaign? Or, you know what? We need to unsubscribe this group of people because this wasn't actually relevant to them. So at every stage of our business, we're trying to optimize to just deliver the best experience we can to our users. And ultimately, that helps us tell that same story to the merchant partners we work with.
Yep. No, that's great. I think it's something that a lot of folks struggle with, whether you're on the media buying side or whether you own a lot of these digital properties. The question of, what is the value of an impression on one site versus on another site? So you guys have two types of businesses. One is that you're optimizing your own traffic, right? Your own traffic on your own sites, and then there is an ad selling proposition where your folks are thinking about, okay, how can I integrate the Ziff Media Group portfolio to help sell more of my stuff, move more units. How do you guys do that? I mean, are there specific metrics that you guys are looking for to compare apples to oranges? Because some of the brands you mentioned, these are very different types of websites. So I'm wondering how you think about that from a technology standpoint, as well as when you're reporting the stuff up back to stakeholders at Ziff Davis.
Yeah, great point. And largely speaking, we do have those sort of two sides to our company. Is largely speaking sort of tech media websites like Mashable, PCMag, and then more pure offers, deals, coupons websites like Retail Me Not, offers.com, blackfriday.com. So it's a pretty straightforward proposition around the data on those very just affiliate marketing driven ones. Traffic comes in, it converts at some rate with some dollar amount, right? And so that's pretty straightforward. It's interesting on something like PCMag. So we value extremely highly our editorial integrity on that site. So we have a team of editors. When you see a review on PCMag for a gaming laptop, there's a team of people who have a lab. Well, now it's been at home for the last year, but they have a lab where they're bringing in these laptops. They're stress testing them. They're running games on them. They're using them for an extended period of time. They're writing a thoughtful, in-depth review, and that person gives, by design, no thought to how much money we're going to make from that. Right. So that person is just giving their true expert review of that laptop, and they are explicitly not thinking about or even really shown what that makes us in terms of conversion or dollars. So then it's, the data side is, where are we focusing our efforts? What sort of things are we trying to show to consumers, depending on where they're at in their journey, and optimizing for that, right? So one thing there, we'd love to build a lot of brand loyalty on PCMag. Personally, I, kind of even before working with Ziff, was a PCMag reader and user, and I still use them because I can see the work they put in. So we want to build that audience. So we have an audience analytics team, and that's essentially a big part of their responsibility. And then from there, once someone has read a review, we'd love it if they go get the best price on that. If I read a review and, if I've got this and I want to go buy a gaming laptop, I've got my Razer, 15-inch blade. I got it from Best Buy. Ultimately, we want to show the user the best offer for them on that thing if they're going to buy it. So we then need to figure out with our data, which partners are we working with? Amazon, Best Buy, Dell. What's the value proposition of their different offers? Maybe this one's free shipping, but it's a little bit more in cost, but that works out. Or maybe we have a coupon code on Retail Me Not for this one, right? So there's a lot of that on-site sort of optimization effort of getting our user the best deal once they've already, kind of gone through the well-curated reviews.
That's cool. That's great. No, I love it. And I got to imagine there's a sort of real-time, pseudo-real-time component to this where folks are optimizing a lot of these reviews or placements or what have you. And so you need all that data imported, centralized, and reported back up to the folks that are, running keyboards and running the campaigns themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, the paid search, paid marketing aspect of our business is one where we really excel with the partners that we work with. If we're able to run paid search campaigns for their brand, we can just deliver really amazing results. Not only are they kind of getting a lot of exposure, people are coming through and seeing an ad and ending up on PC Mag or on offers.com or Retail Me Not. We're driving that traffic straight back to the merchant without them really having to do a lot of work, right? We put a lot of work into sort of getting the best converting users and that this ad's the most relevant to them and that they're at this part of the funnel, right? And so ultimately, we're working hard at that to win with our merchant partners.
That's cool. I love it. Thank you. This is great. This is really cool. I want to talk a little bit more about this sort of like the buying aspect and specifically maybe with around trust. I think there's a trust component for consumers nowadays. A lot of folks talking about, social media. Is this trustworthy? What are folks doing with our data? There's a trust component from the buying aspect, which is like, if I'm using third-party data, am I getting good third-party data? So I want to direct this question to Alana. You read through your website, there's a lot of talk about real people, validated folks. Facebook's out there talking about, how good their probabilistic algorithms are. And this person's probably in market for an automobile. They're probably between 18 and 34. Can you talk to me? Why is deterministic, which is what you guys are talking about, why is verified important for you guys?
Sure. And excuse me, sorry about dropping off before. There's no time like a webinar to lose your connection. But yeah, our belief is that quality data matters. It matters to marketers. Real people is important because I think about 25 cents out of every dollar spent is wasted because of poor quality data. So there is certainly something to be said for reach and scale using probabilistic terminology and just in general, just trying to reach as many people as possible. And there is value there. But we rely heavily on our real people database because it eliminates fraud. It is cookieless. We're not reliant on any kind of cookie. So there's stability and longevity there. And then when you're trying to get to scale, we would prefer to use that deterministic real person to be able to build off of it. So, I have a set of ideal customers and I'm trying to reach more of them. So we could create models that build on that relationship. But as cookies are going away, publishers are trying to have a better authenticated footprint of their consumers just by having more subscription options, and marketers are trying to create a better one-to-one relationship with their customers. And so our validated audience database relies heavily on those real people.
That's cool. That's cool. And so, for you guys, like email, right? Email is the center of gravity, both from an activation standpoint. You're activating on email, as well as your database is based on the email address. You sort of build the graph out from the email address. I'm wondering if you're thinking about you're building a team of soldiers, about salespeople to go out into the industry and sell against, TV and OTT and paid search and social. And I'm wondering if you could speak to this idea that, I've heard both ends of the spectrum. Both, email is the new front page of the internet. It's a relatively new development. Email is the front page of the internet. I read, Axios and Digiday. That's where I get my news. I don't go to those websites anymore. Versus the other end of the spectrum, which is you got to go buy on all the individual platforms, and keeping up with that is a hard job. I got TikTok, I got Snapchat, I got Discord, I got Clubhouse, I got all these things to think about. So kind of on that spectrum, how do you coach your folks when you're going out and selling up against all these various platforms? What's the bridge pitch in those contexts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do media deployment across channel. We started out in email marketing specifically. Once we realized that people were opening up their email in the morning on their mobile device rather than on their desktop, it sort of opened up this world of opportunity where we said, oh, we should definitely invest in mobile. And we started creating that database from that email address. So we have two proprietary publisher networks. One is online, where we have relationships with thousands of publishers, and we're collecting the email, name, postal through things like form fill. So if you think about, like, I'm trying to sign up for an insurance quote, or I'm registering for a sweepstakes. We collect that information on the back end through the online network, and then we connect that through the email address as the connective tissue through to our mobile publisher network. So we actually get really cool insights from the mobile network, where we know a lot of things through the device. So we know what language your device is set in. We know what country you're in. We know what Bluetooth technologies you're hooked up to. We know what apps you have on your phone, and we start building from there. So, like, if I know that you prefer Uber to Lyft, or I bank at Bank of America over Chase, we can start creating these really robust profiles. But it's still rooted in the individual. If I cancel my phone and I buy a different one, I'll still have to log in with my email if I want to read those Axios newsletters in the morning. So, right. So we sort of build it from there, and it allows us to create that 360-degree profile of the individual.
That's cool. That's cool. What is your go-to app on your phone? What's the aside from email, aside from reading Axios and Digiday, what's your go-to app?
So I'm a big Peloton fan, which pandemic certainly helped that along.
Are you an influencer?
Every day. And so, yes, I don't consider myself an influencer, but I do track my rides. And if you think about, even just, if I'm looking to do a targeted campaign for Peloton, let's say, I create an audience potentially of those with a myriad of fitness apps on their phones that are not Peloton. We do a lot of conquest type campaigns. So, sure. I know this person is a fitness enthusiast, but they might not have Peloton. So we would create that audience. We would go omni-channel after them, and then we would be able to do some attribution on the back end to match back to the initial group that was in that campaign, and then see who signed up.
That's cool. That's cool. You mentioned a term that I'm going to use this one to pivot to the broader group. You mentioned the connective tissue. So email is the connective tissue. In database terms, we would think about that as like a join key, right? We bring all this data in, and what are we going to join on? So we've got email because you know these folks. We've got email because they log into certain apps. You got email for a variety of different providers. You bring in data from another provider potentially, and you join on that email. You find out more about them. I want to flip this question back to Nana at Condé Nast, because this idea of joining is tricky, right? That we struggle with this with our customers all the time. Is what is that connective tissue? And so, Condé Nast has 30 different brands. A lot of times they're visiting these various properties. They're not logged in. And so there is a question of, we don't always know if the person on one website, Vanity Fair, is the same person on another site, Pitchfork, for example. So I'd love to hear Nana's response to this one, and then I'd love to open it up to the rest of the group. But this theme of connective tissue, I think, is fascinating, and it hits on the central theme of this webinar, that the data integration component is how companies can differentiate and succeed. So Nana, can you talk a little bit about, if I go to Pitchfork and then I switch over to Vanity Fair, do you guys know that it's me? How do you guys think about problems like that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great question. And it's I think this question, I think, is one that obviously goes back to the whole identity conversation that many people are having, and trying to figure out, again, building different like ID graphs to identify like people who are moving across different sites to really ensure, okay, this is the right person that I'm actually targeting. So I think from our perspective at Condé, having access to our own first party data in terms of like even our clickstream and seeing people come across our different brands is one way that we're able to again, we have that data and we own that data, so we are able to actually see that behavior and that movement across the different brands. So from our side, it's having the power of the first party data that we have at our use, or at our advantage, to really get that perspective. But I'm very curious to hear what the other panelists are facing in their sides as well.
That's actually, just yesterday, from 2 major financial services brands, I got an Excel doc that said, you need to fill out for us what this new landscape's going to look like, and who are all these identity solution providers that you guys are going to go work with. And so, coming from the offline world and us working with, onboarders and the DSPs that then go to the publishers and platforms, that's what we're in the middle of too, is what are these these identity solutions? Is it LiveRamp's IDL graph? Is it, the Trade Desk solution? It's all these solutions that just being in the data world, we're having to go out and ask, our very key partners, like, how are we going to do this? And I think everyone still is very much in this landscape shift that we're all trying to figure it out right now.
Right. I think in some sense that so a lot of folks are saying, look, if we lose cookies, if we're in this post GDPR, post CCPA world, everything is going to go back to contextual. And so, is it advertising based on, I'll belabor the same 2 examples. Pitchfork is going to be music heads of a certain, demo, age, sex, gender, location. And then Vanity Fair is a different one, cosmopolitan, big cities, X, Y, and Z. Are we moving into a world where everything must be, generic and contextual, or are a lot of those technologies sticking around, right? Are those big, giant, data clearinghouses going to continue to be the powerhouses in industry? I think this is a good one. Margot and Alana might be able to speak to this the best, being squarely in the sort of ad tech kind of universe.
I just gave a presentation to our board a few weeks ago, and contextual targeting was one of the key terms that I said, it used to be big data, big data, big data. What does big data mean? And I go, contextual targeting is really what everyone's starting to play in, and that word is coming back up so much more. So I think it does kind of move to that realm. But like we were talking about earlier, just with some of, the regulations evolving and the, identity landscape moving, I think we are all just it's not just going to appear one day. We are all just every day learning more. And what did ISO do to Facebook yesterday? And so it is an ever evolving change, but it truly goes back to what I was saying before of how, clients have to have this trusted, transparent partner that's just ever working with them, and they know truly where the data came from.
Right.
I think also that the marketers themselves will be pressured into doing a better job to create that relationship with their customer. Like I said earlier, I think online targeting in general will be reduced to a somewhat of a fraction of its size, but there are all those identity partners trying to figure it out. And I think that there will be alternatives without just, the whole identity space kind of crumbling, like with the Trade Desk's UID and the interoperability and the open source nature of that, like could solve for it on the one hand. On the other hand, like there are a lot of other players, walled gardens, whatever, that are pushing back hard against it. And I think we might just see them like sort of run into each other and then combust, and then that, like whatever sort of sprinkles down will be the ultimate solution.
Sure. No, I think too, like even as a consumer, this sort of maybe backlash against privacy is if I'm in market for an automobile and I show up at ESPN, I don't just go to automobile sites when I'm in market for an automobile. I do a lot of things. And so to only get hit with sports content and sports ads when I'm on ESPN doesn't make sense for me as a consumer. I almost in some ways want advertisers to know what I'm in market for, what my tastes are, so they can target me with relevant advertising. It feels like there will continue to be that movement where giving consumers what they want is going to override that regulatory framework that we're living in now.
And I think that's what, with CCPA coming down, and I think they were talking about on the news last night even, is, people can go online right now and they can literally fill something out and it can go across disperse and say, I want to opt out of all of this. I don't think a lot of people, like as an individual that's outside of this kind of ecosystem, understand that you're not getting opted out of ads. You're just getting opted out of targeted ads to me, or I'm going to have to start paying to use Facebook now or paying to use Instagram. Like, I don't think that really has been known in the industry of like what you truly are going to opt in and opt out of.
I would just like to add that like Bridges, GDPR, CCPA, CAN-SPAN compliant, all of that, we're members of the DAA where consumers can opt out and all of that. When GDPR first came out, we saw almost no opt-outs. Almost no consumers were asking us to remove them from the database. So just a little interesting point of note.
If I'm in market for CBD dog treats, I want the world to know. I want them to target me with the right stuff.
And you'll use the beauty products too, probably next, and all of that. Yes.
I want to be conscious of time. We will get about 5 minutes left. For the 5tran folks monitoring chat, are there other questions from the audience? Are there other topics you think we should address while we got these smart folks on screen?
Yeah, so Stan actually just asked a question. Thanks for your question, Stan. Are you seeing a movement from targeting using segmentation or cohorts versus personalization, specifically targeting the use at the engagement point? And this is relative to data collection today. So if someone wants to dive in, feel free. But thanks for your question, Stan.
I would also say, hey, Stan, good to see you. Thanks for joining. I think I understand this question as like, are we targeting individuals or are we targeting personas? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, is that what we're going after? And so if you're coming from an email world, right, like then it's the one-to-one marketing story is deterministic, as you guys have in all of your literature. I'd be curious to hear from all you guys. Like, what do you guys think is more important? Is it important to get in front of an individual person to know who they are, to have their individual identity graph built out, or are folks looking for just like reach and broad audiences?
What we're seeing on the Analytics IQ side is if they are taking the data in-house, like an actual end client is taking the data in-house and truly matching it to their first-party data, segmentation, personas, their analytics team wants all of that. In the digital side of it, it's a little more difficult because you have these thin personas just out there sitting on the shelf and no one actually knows what those descriptors are, who those people truly are. So if it is like a true, like in an enrichment and a license, they truly want the data in-house mirrored with their first party data, segmentation personas are really starting to have an uptick again. Yes.
I would also say that we use the personalization or the first party data as a starting point. But when we're doing activation, we'll use a programmatically optimized media mix to determine where that user is most likely to engage. So based on the optimization, we might pivot to a persona because it might generate the outcomes that they're looking for.
Cool. I have another question that I'm reading right now. I think this one might be good for Chris. So Google Analytics just released a pretty big update So GA4 is kind of, we've looked at it as kind of a sea change for a lot of the Google Analytics stuff that folks are traditionally doing. Is it possible for a company like Google to come in and fix all of these data integration problems? Is GA4 going to solve a whole bunch of the problems in your job? Everything becomes automated?
Well, that would be great, I guess. Well, I'd be out of a job, but to some degree, it'd be great. Yeah, so that's a great question, John, and one that I am actively asking and looking for answers for myself. So I have training coming up, I think, next week, actually, on GA4 from Google in particular to dive into this question of, does it solve any problems that we're having, or does it address any issues we're having today? So TBD, I guess, on that. But the problem that it does solve is a big chunk of the data integration, I guess I would say. Especially if you're on other Google services. If you're on Google Ads, the integration is there right out of the box. A lot of the stuff you want to do on site, custom dimensions, very easy to use. So, it already solves a big chunk of that. But then, from my data engineering perspective, great, where does that go? If we've got folks that can only look at it in Google Data Studio, integration is a challenge, I guess, would be the short way to say that. And this is exactly why we work with Fivetran, for them to bring our Google Analytics data out of BigQuery into Snowflake. Snowflake's our data warehouse where everything else in our company lives, right? So this is actually a really good question for Sarah. If I won't type it in the chat box, but does Fivetran have GA4 on their radar near term? Because I know that we are fast approaching kind of when that's going to be the go-to solution.
I'll probably crash your training and figure out what I need to tell the team. So it'll be perfectly fine. We'll take care of it.
Well, cool. I know we're coming up on time. I wanted to land on a real quick upbeat note. Just real fast. We only got a couple more minutes left. If we can go through the remainder of the panelists. If you guys could wave your magic wands, brand new technology comes into the market, makes your jobs easier, helps your company stand out. I'd love to hear it. Nana, do you want to kick us off? What's a technology that would just be a game changer for you?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, specifically data engineering, is having a data quality tool, to be honest with you, because to the point that we just mentioned, there's many data integration points that we all connect to, and the size is getting a lot day and day, right? So if I could wave literally a magic wand, it will be a data quality tool or framework that allows me to make sure that whatever data I'm bringing in has the right reliability and of the right quality before I feed it down to the entire enterprise.
Cool. Margaret, what about yourself?
It would be like maybe a one identity solution, probably, from cookie to mail to PII to email, all that. One identity solution that we can all use across all platforms. That would be very helpful.
That's great. Yeah. Alana, what about yourself?
I think the industry at large has so much data currently, and half the battle is figuring out its quality, like Nana said, and then the other half is deciding what to actually do with it. So I think some sort of insights, analytics layer with visualization for the marketer would be killer.
Yeah. And Chris, is it GA4? Is that the game changer for you, or is that it could be a different one?
I'm going to give you a hot take. And this is my personal opinion.
I'm ready.
If I could wave my magic wand and overnight, I think Brave's basic attention token is a good move in the right direction. So whether it's that or something else, solving the entire thing of, as a user, if I see ads, I want them to be relevant, but maybe I don't want to see ads. Maybe I would rather just pay Instagram money, right? I would rather pay my favorite content creators on YouTube money. So if I could wave my magic wand and overnight everybody was using something like Brave's basic attention token, and my browser was just paying the people that I'm spending time engaging with their content, great. Without that magic wand, I don't know if we ever get there, but I guess we'll see.
I love it. A good crypto, right? A good crypto note to land on. Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone, the panelists, for your awesome answers and great insight. I want to thank everyone for joining. I'm going to land on a quick slide for everyone. If you guys are interested in getting more information about Latticework Insights or about Fivetran, our information is here on screen. Please feel free to reach out even with questions. We're really interested in talking with folks that are interested in learning more.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.